The rain had begun to fall in soft, cold streaks against the window when Isabel Reynolds stepped into her penthouse apartment. It was late evening, the city lights stretching out like a restless ocean beneath her, but her thoughts were too heavy to appreciate the view. She set her leather bag on the marble counter, exhaled, and tried to let the silence soothe her. For weeks, she had been chasing expansion deals in Milan, closing one of the biggest contracts of her career, and all she wanted was one night of peace. But peace had long abandoned her life. The phone on the counter buzzed, dragging her from her thoughts. Marissa's name flashed on the screen. Isabel hesitated. Her assistant never called at night unless something was urgent. She swiped to answer, her voice careful. Marissa. There was a pause, the kind that always preceded bad news. Isabel, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's about your car. The BMW. Isabel froze. That car wasn't just a car. It had been Robert's, her late husband's, the one he had driven to every board meeting, every family vacation, the one they'd taken on road trips before Reynolds' real estate had been more than a dream. It was Robert's last trace in her world. What about it? Isabel's voice was thin, barely more than a whisper. Marissa inhaled sharply. It's gone. Sold. Without your consent. The words slammed into Isabel like ice water. Sold? By whom? There was silence, heavy and reluctant. Then Marissa said the name Isabel had feared in her gut. Tyler. For a moment Isabel couldn't breathe. Her son. Her only child. Her voice hardened. That car wasn't his to touch. He claimed it was his, Marissa said softly. That you'd given him power of attorney while you were abroad. He showed the dealership some paperwork. It checked out, at least on the surface. A cold weight sank into Isabel's chest. Paperwork. Forged, no doubt. She clenched her jaw, forcing steel into her voice. Get me every detail. Who signed when, where? I want everything. Yes, Isabel. When the call ended, Isabel stood in the center of her apartment, staring at nothing. The city hummed below, indifferent to her unraveling world. She had raised Tyler with love, with privilege, with every advantage money could buy. She had built an empire to pass down to him, and this was what he did. Selling his father's car like it was scrap metal? Her phone buzzed again, this time a text from Harriet, her oldest friend, the woman who had been at her side since the early days of the company. Asterisk, I heard. I'm on my way over. Asterisk, Isabel almost declined. She wanted to be alone with her fury. But when Harriet arrived 20 minutes later, carrying a bottle of wine, Isabel felt the dam inside her crack. He sold it, Isabel whispered, her voice trembling. Robert's car. Just gone. Harriet set the bottle down, her eyes sharp. Why? Isabel laughed bitterly. Why does Tyler do anything? For money? For ego? For spite? Or for all three? Harriet poured them both glasses of wine. You need to stop treating this like a phase. This is deliberate. Isabel sipped the wine, but it did nothing to steady her. She walked to the window, her reflection a pale ghost against the glittering skyline. It's just a car, I keep telling myself. But it isn't. It's Robert. Her voice broke. Harriet came closer. Then treat it for what it is, a warning. He's pushing boundaries. He's testing how much you'll tolerate. Isabel turned sharply. He's my son. He's also a man making choices. Dangerous ones. For a long time neither woman spoke. The wine sat untouched. The rain thickened against the glass, like the sky itself was grieving. Then Isabel's phone rang again. Marissa. Her tone was tense. There's more. After Tyler left today, I ran a routine check of his company accounts. Isabel, 2 days before you came back from Milan, he downloaded confidential data. Contracts. Projections. A significant amount. Isabel's pulse thundered. Espionage. It looks deliberate. Her chest constricted. First the car. Now the company. Tyler wasn't acting out of anger. He was preparing for war. Lock everything down, Isabel said coldly. Change the headquarters access codes. Replace every lock if you have to. And Marissa, tell IT to audit every click Tyler's made in the past month. When the call ended, Isabel's hands were trembling. Harriet's face had gone pale. This is bigger than family drama, Harriet said quietly. This is criminal. Isabel wanted to argue, to deny, but deep inside she knew it was true. Robert had always told her integrity mattered more than blood. Once, years ago, they had discovered an executive embezzling funds. Isabel had reported him without hesitation. No tears, no excuses. And yet now it was her son. As she stood in the shadows of her apartment, grief swelled inside her, colliding with a fury sharper than steel. Tyler wasn't just betraying her. He was betraying his father's legacy, the company that bore their family's name, everything they had built. Her phone buzzed again, cutting through the silence. This time it was an email. From Jennifer Preston, New York Times. The subject line, request for comment, Reynolds family drama. Isabel's blood ran cold. The world wasn't just closing in, it was watching, waiting for her next move. And for the first time in her life, Isabel Reynolds wasn't sure if her son was just reckless, or if he had become her enemy. To be continued. The email from the New York Times sat in Isabel's inbox like a landmine, its subject line screaming louder than any headline splashed across the morning paper. Asterisk, inquiry regarding Reynolds real estate holdings. Asterisk, her finger hovered over the trackpad, her breath shallow. She'd handled countless media inquiries in her career. Some flattering, some hostile. But this one felt different. This one felt personal. She clicked it open. The reporter's questions were direct, unervingly specific. Irregularities in overseas accounts, suspicious property transfers, and whispers of fraudulent life insurance policies. And woven into the carefully polite language was the one name she had hoped never to see in connection with such accusations. Tyler Reynolds, her son. Her first instinct was denial. Surely they had mistaken him for someone else, another Reynolds in the sprawling real estate industry. But the details were too precise. They referenced a European shell company she hadn't even known existed until recently, and they connected it to accounts Tyler had full access to. Isabel's stomach clenched. She shut the laptop and stood abruptly, pacing the length of her office. The polished floor reflected her every step, her silhouette warped and distorted as though mocking her. How could it be possible? Just days ago, the biggest betrayal she thought she'd face was Tyler selling her dream car. That felt almost childish now, petty compared to this. The BMW had been sentimental. But this was survival. She reached for the phone and dialed Harriet. Within minutes, her old friend arrived, her calm presence like a steady anchor in the storm. Isabel thrust the printed email into her hands. "Read this," she demanded. Harriet scanned it quickly, her face tightening. "They know too much, Isabel. And they're only asking what they already suspect. If this goes public, it will destroy the company," Isabel finished bitterly. "Not just the company. Me. Everything I've built. And all because of my son." For a long moment, the only sound in the office was the hum of the city outside, muffled through the glass windows. Finally, Harriet placed the email gently on the desk. "You need to get ahead of this. If you wait, the story writes itself, and it won't be the truth you want told." Isabel's chest constricted. "You think I should go public? Admit that my son..." Her voice faltered. She couldn't bring herself to say the words. "Not admit," Harriet corrected softly, "but control the narrative. Separate your name from his before he drags you down with him." "Isabel, you know I'm right." The words stung because they were true. That night, sleep eluded her. She lay awake in the silence of her penthouse, staring at the ceiling as memories of Tyler's childhood collided with the harsh reality of his crimes. The boy who once begged her to read him just one more story before bed was now a man capable of stealing not just her money, but her future. By morning, the decision was clear. She called her legal team, instructing them to prepare a statement. It would be vague enough to buy her time but strong enough to assure shareholders she remained in control. Yet even as she rehearsed the words, she knew the truth. Nothing about this was under her control anymore. The following day, she faced the board. Rows of sharp eyes watched her with suspicion, some tinged with pity, others with thinly veiled hostility. Isabel stood at the head of the table, her posture impeccable, her voice steady. "There have been rumors," she began. "Rumors of impropriety tied to the Reynolds name. I want to assure you all that Reynolds Real Estate operates with full integrity and transparency. Any investigation will confirm that." A murmur rippled through the room. She didn't flinch, but as the meeting adjourned, a younger board member approached her quietly. Off the record, Isabel, people are saying this isn't just rumor. They're saying it's your son. Her chest constricted, but she forced a polite smile. Rumors have a way of distorting the truth. I suggest you focus on facts. She walked away before her mask could crack. Later that evening, Harriet arrived with grim news. It's spreading, Isabel. Not just the Times. Other outlets are sniffing around too. And someone inside the company is leaking information. The words hit harder than she expected. An insider? Who? Harriet hesitated. I don't know yet. But the timing. Isabel, it might be Tyler himself. The thought hollowed her out. Had her son not only betrayed her finances but also her reputation? Was he the one feeding their enemies? Isabel poured herself a glass of wine, her hand trembling. If that's true, Harriet, then my son isn't just reckless. He's dangerous. Harriet's gaze was steady. So what are you going to do? Isabel looked out at the glittering Manhattan skyline, her reflection in the glass merging with the city lights. She had spent decades mastering this world, bending it to her will. And now it threatened to consume her because of the one person she thought she could never turn against. Her voice was quiet, resolute. I'm going to find out the truth. And when I do, she turned back, her eyes sharp as steel. I won't protect him anymore. The knock at Isabel's office door was soft but insistent. She looked up from the pile of financial reports she'd been pretending to study. Marissa Chen entered, her face pale, lips pressed into a line that betrayed what she was about to say. They're here, Marissa whispered. For a moment Isabel didn't understand. Who? Detectives Morales and Chun. They want to speak with you privately. It's about Tyler. The words fell like lead. Isabel's throat tightened. She had been bracing for this moment, but anticipation never softened the blow of reality. She gestured toward the conference room. Send them in. The two detectives entered with the quiet authority of people, accustomed to breaking lives in the name of justice. Morales, older and broad-shouldered, carried a notepad but didn't use it immediately. Chun, younger, sharp-eyed, moved with a meticulous calm that made Isabel uneasy. Mrs. Reynolds, Morales began, thank you for agreeing to meet with us. We're investigating allegations of financial misconduct involving your son, Tyler Reynolds. Isabel folded her hands, the picture of control. I assume you have specific questions. Ask them. Chun slid a folder across the table. Inside were documents, copies of wire transfers, property deeds, and offshore account statements. All of them bore Tyler's name and, more damningly, her own. These transfers, Chun said, tapping one page, total nearly $8 million over the last year. Some appear to come from Reynolds' corporate accounts. Can you confirm your authorization? Isabel's mouth went dry. She scanned the signatures, her eyes widening. They looked like hers, fluid, practiced, indistinguishable. But she had never signed these. No, she said at last, her voice steady despite the chill creeping through her. I did not authorize any of these. Morales exchanged a look with Chun. We suspected as much. The signatures appear forged. Our handwriting analysts are already reviewing them. The room tilted around her. Forged. By her own son. Mrs. Reynolds, Chun continued carefully, we believe Tyler has been orchestrating a scheme to siphon money from both your personal and corporate assets. And there's more. She slid another set of papers forward. Isabel froze. Medical records. Her medical records. Notes from her last physical. Details about mild hypertension. Recommendations for tests she had ignored. Alongside them were copies of life insurance policies. Policies listing Tyler as the sole beneficiary. Her breath caught in her chest. These, I never signed these either. Morales's voice dropped, heavy with gravity. We believe your son may have forged your signature on multiple policies. Taken together with the medical records, the implication is troubling. It took Isabel a moment to understand. When she did, her blood ran cold. Tyler hadn't just been stealing from her. He'd been positioning himself to profit from her death. For a long moment, no one spoke. The hum of the air conditioner seemed deafening. Finally, Isabel whispered, My son. My own son. Chun leaned forward gently. Mrs. Reynolds, we don't have evidence of any direct threat to your safety. But given these discoveries, we strongly recommend taking precautions. Security, Limited contact until the investigation is complete. Her hands trembled under the table, but her voice was sharp. Do what you must. Find the truth. But understand this, if Tyler has truly done what you suggest, I will not protect him. The detectives nodded. They had expected no less after they left. Isabel collapsed into her chair, her composure cracking. Harriet arrived minutes later, summoned by a panicked call from Marissa. She found Isabel staring at the forged policies, her face ashen. He was planning for my death, Harriet, Isabel whispered. My own child. Harriet knelt beside her. We don't know that for certain. But her voice lacked conviction. The decision Isabel had been avoiding for weeks now loomed before her. She could no longer dismiss Tyler's actions as recklessness or immaturity. This was calculated, deliberate. Her phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Asterisk, they won't release him today. Bail is set at $1 million. I don't have that kind of money. What should I do? Asterisk, Isabel's hands tightened around the phone. The baby. Olivia's pregnancy. Did that change things? Should it? Harriet touched her arm gently. You don't have to decide now. Give yourself time. But Isabel knew she couldn't avoid the choice forever. Bail her son out, protect him once again, or let him face the cold consequences of his actions. That evening, Olivia appeared outside the police station, her usually polished exterior replaced by raw distress. Isabel, please. I need to talk to you. It's important. About Tyler. Harriet moved protectively closer, but Isabel raised a hand. Something in Olivia's eyes was different, fear mixed with sorrow. They sat in a cafe 20 minutes later. Olivia slid a folder across the table, her hands trembling. I found these in Tyler's office, she said. Inside were offshore account records, transfers to a disbarred attorney with a fraud conviction, and a chillingly detailed inventory of Isabel's assets, categorized by liquidity, annotated like a hunter studying prey. Isabel felt her world collapse further with each page. I didn't know, Olivia whispered. Tears streaked her face. I knew he was irresponsible, but this level of planning. I swear, Isabel, I had no idea. For the first time, Isabel believed her. The betrayal etched across Olivia's face mirrored her own. What will you do? Isabel asked. Olivia's hand moved instinctively to her stomach. I don't know. I can't stay with him, but I can't ignore the baby either. I've been offered a contract in London. 3 months. I was going to decline, but now you're considering it, Isabel finished. Olivia nodded. Would that make me terrible? Leaving while he faces charges? No, Isabel said firmly. It would make you smart. Something I should have been with him years ago. Their eyes met, two women bound not by affection but by shared betrayal. What about bail? Olivia asked softly. Isabel's decision crystallized. No, I won't post bail. Tyler needs to understand that some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. Olivia's gaze filled with something like respect as she left. Isabel promised her support for Olivia, for the baby, for a chance at a different future. That night, Isabel sat at her desk staring at the document her lawyers had prepared, a formal statement of cooperation with prosecutors. All it required was her signature, to testify if needed, to stand against her own son in the name of justice. Her hand hovered. Memories of Tyler as a child flooded her. The boy with innocent eyes, the young man with promise. Where had he gone? But then she remembered the forged signatures, the calculated betrayal, the insurance policies she signed. The moment the cursor blinked confirmation, a strange calm settled over her. Not peace, but clarity. Her phone rang. A number she didn't recognize. She almost ignored it. Mrs. Reynolds? This is Dr. Matthews from Bellevue Hospital. Your son was brought in an hour ago. He attempted self-harm while in custody. The world tilted again. He's stable, the doctor continued quickly. But he specifically requested that you not be allowed to visit. The rejection pierced deeper than any fraud ever could. Still she went. She spoke with doctors, observed him through glass, saw the boy she once loved reduced to a broken man staring blankly at the ceiling. Despite everything, tears filled her eyes. Because betrayal had not erased love. It had only twisted it into something sharper, more painful. Isabel stood in the sterile hallway of Bellevue Hospital, the antiseptic scent sharp in her nostrils. Through the glass panel of the psychiatric observation room, Tyler lay motionless, his eyes fixed on the ceiling as if searching for answers only he could see. A voice behind her spoke quietly. "Mrs. Reynolds?" She turned to find Dr. Jonathan Winters, the hospital's senior psychiatrist. He was tall, silver-haired, with a presence that balanced authority and empathy. His expression was grave. "I'm Dr. Winters. I've been evaluating your son since he was admitted." Isabel's voice was clipped, brittle. "And?" Winters gestured toward a consultation room. She followed, her heels echoing on the tile. Inside, he closed the door and folded his hands on the table. "Tyler is physically stable. But mentally..." He hesitated, choosing his words. "We're seeing signs of severe narcissistic traits, combined with antisocial tendencies. His recent actions suggest calculated behavior, financial manipulation, fraud, even the suggestion of benefiting from your death. These are not impulsive mistakes, Mrs. Reynolds. They are patterns." The words cut, though she had already feared them. "Are you saying my son is beyond help?" Winters shook his head gently. "Not beyond help, but traditional therapy is unlikely to succeed unless he accepts responsibility. At present, he shows no remorse. He views himself as the victim. In fact, when asked about the forgeries, he claimed you pushed him into it by never giving him enough." Isabel's stomach tightened. "That's a lie." Winters's gaze softened. "I don't doubt it. But from his perspective, that belief justifies everything." Isabel's mind swirled. Images of Tyler as a boy, clutching her hand at school, proudly showing her his first report card, collided with the cold man forging her name. "Is he dangerous?" she asked quietly. Winters was silent for a beat. "Potentially. Not necessarily to others right now, but to himself certainly. His attempt was serious. If left unchecked, he could escalate." The weight pressed heavier. She had faced hostile boardrooms, lawsuits, financial crises, but nothing compared to the abyss of watching her child unravel. When she returned to the observation window, she found Olivia there, pale and hollow-eyed, one hand resting protectively over her stomach. Harriet stood beside her, arms folded in cautious solidarity. Olivia's voice trembled. "He doesn't want to see me either," he said. "He said the baby is just another chain you'll use to control him." The cruelty of it stunned Isabel. Even now, Tyler found a way to wound. Harriet turned to her. "You've already signed the cooperation agreement. Are you certain? Once prosecutors have you, there's no going back." Isabel's voice was steel. "I'm certain," Olivia whispered. "He'll hate you forever." Isabel's gaze stayed fixed on Tyler through the glass. "Then let him. Better he hate me and face justice than love me while destroying everything I built." The following weeks were a storm. The New York Times published their exposé, splashing Isabel's family drama across front pages. Reynolds' legacy in crisis. Son accused of fraud. Mother cooperates with prosecutors. Reporters camped outside her gates. Former allies whispered betrayal. Investors wavered. And yet, for every call of doubt, there were 10 of admiration. Isabel Reynolds had chosen truth over family, a rare, almost unthinkable act in their world of privilege. Behind closed doors, prosecutors built their case. Detectives Morales and Chun returned often, gathering evidence, requesting meetings. Each time, Isabel steeled herself to relive the betrayal. Each time she delivered. Harriet remained her shield, intercepting calls, silencing rumors. But even she began to show cracks. "You're holding everything together with your bare hands," she murmured one night. "How much longer can you stand before you break?" Isabel didn't answer. She couldn't. Then came the board meeting. The Reynolds Empire's directors convened, eyes sharp with calculation. Some demanded her resignation, claiming her personal scandal endangered the company's image. Others rallied to her defense, insisting only she could guide them through the storm. When her turn came, Isabel rose. "Yes," she said, her voice carrying the steel that had built their empire. "My son betrayed me. He betrayed this company. But I will not resign. Because stepping down now would hand victory to deceit. And I will not let my legacy be rewritten by a liar. Even if that liar is my own child." The room erupted, half in applause, half in outrage. But Isabel stood tall, unshaken outside. Olivia approached her with trembling hands. I've accepted the London contract. I'm leaving next week. For a moment Isabel felt abandoned. But then she saw the truth in Olivia's eyes. Not selfishness but survival. Go, Isabel said softly. Protect your future. I'll protect what's left of mine. The days blurred into nights. Isabel drove herself harder, balancing court appearances with board negotiations, fending off whispers of weakness while privately unraveling. Then, one late evening as she left her office, a voice called from the shadows of the parking garage. Mom! She froze. Tyler stood there, thinner, paler, eyes wild with desperation. Somehow he had been released on conditional bail, a fact she hadn't been told. Tyler, she whispered, heart hammering. You ruined me, he hissed, stepping closer. You think cooperating makes you noble? No. You've destroyed your son. For what? For strangers who don't give a damn about you. She backed against the car, Harriet's warnings echoing in her mind. Tyler's hands shook, but his voice sharpened. You'll regret this. Every headline, every whisper. They'll eat you alive. And when they do, don't come begging me to save you. Before she could respond, he disappeared into the shadows, leaving her trembling. For the first time in her life, Isabel Reynolds, woman of unbreakable will, felt true fear. The night of the gala was meant to be Isabel's triumph. The ballroom of the Reynolds Foundation glimmered with chandeliers, polished marble floors reflecting the light like liquid gold. Guests arrived in gowns and tuxedos, their voices rising in elegant laughter, champagne glasses catching the sparkle of 100 cameras. For weeks, Isabel had orchestrated this fundraiser as a declaration that despite scandal, betrayal, and whispers of weakness, she remained unbroken. The proceeds would go toward rebuilding a children's hospital wing, an act of philanthropy designed not just to help, but to remind the world of who she was. Harriet moved at her side like a general on campaign, ensuring every detail was perfect. Donors are responding well, she murmured, handing Isabel a tablet with figures climbing higher by the minute. We've already surpassed last year's total. Isabel allowed herself a small smile. For the first time in months, a flicker of pride warmed her chest. Then she saw him, Tyler. He stood near the back of the ballroom, leaner now, dressed in a tailored black suit that accentuated his sharpness rather than his frailty. His eyes locked on hers across the glittering crowd. Harriet noticed instantly. Security should have stopped him. How the hell did he get in? Isabel's pulse quickened, but she lifted her chin. No scenes tonight. Not here. If he wants to watch, let him watch. But Tyler did more than watch. As the evening unfolded, donors began murmuring, glancing down at their phones. Confusion rippled like an undertow. Isabel's speech, carefully prepared to end the night with inspiration, was suddenly interrupted by a flicker on the giant projection screens behind her. The room froze as the screens filled with images, private documents, bank statements, doctored clips of Isabel in board meetings. And then, worst of all, a heavily edited video splicing her cooperation with prosecutors to make it appear she was complicit in fraud. Gasps echoed. Phones snapped photos. Social media lit up in real time. Turn it off, Harriet barked, rushing toward the control booth. But the damage was done. The images looped once more before the screens went black. Isabel stood frozen at the podium, every eye in the room fixed on her from the shadows. Tyler smiled. The rest of the gala disintegrated. Donors fled. Reporters swarmed. Security finally moved, but Tyler was already gone, leaving behind only chaos. Later that night in her office, Isabel sat in silence as Harriet slammed down her phone. The video's gone viral. Hashtags calling you a fraud are trending. This could sink everything. Isabel pressed her hands to her temples. It was him. It had to be him. Harriet's voice softened. And he won't stop. The following days were a blur of damage control. Crisis managers spun statements, lawyers drafted cease and desists, allies rallied as best they could. But the smear campaign had taken root. For every loyal investor, 3 wavered. Through it all, Isabel refused to hide. She attended every board meeting, answered every reporter's question, projecting strength even as her foundation crumbled beneath her. Then came the call from Olivia. I've seen the video, she whispered over the crackle of an overseas line. People are asking if I knew, if I was part of it. I don't know what to do, Isabel. You hold your head high, Isabel told her firmly. You didn't make these choices. He did. There was a pause. Then Olivia's voice broke. The baby's coming soon. I can't do this alone. The words pierced through Isabel's armor. Betrayal or not, her grandchild was innocent. And Olivia, flawed though she was still family now. You won't be alone, Isabel promised. But Tyler was far from finished. A week later, just as Isabel began to stabilize the company's image, a fire broke out in one of her warehouses. Investigators declared it arson. Insurance files revealed policies signed in Tyler's name. It was a deliberate strike, not just to ruin her finances, but to cast suspicion directly on her. The board demanded answers. Do you understand what this looks like? One director snapped. First the fraud, now fires linked to your assets? We can't survive another scandal. Isabel stood spine straight. You think I would burn my own warehouses? You think I would endanger lives for profit? I built this company from nothing. If you believe I destroy it for gain, then you've already chosen Tyler's lies over my truth. Silence. Shame hung in the air. But still, doubt lingered in their eyes. Late that night, alone in her penthouse, Isabel poured herself a glass of wine and stared at the city skyline. For the first time, she felt the weight of surrender pressing close. How many battles could one woman fight before breaking? A knock startled her. Harriet entered, her face unreadable. You need to see this. She handed Isabel a flash drive. On it was security footage. Tyler himself at the warehouse the night of the fire, slipping into the shadows with a gas can. Clear. Undeniable. Relief and heartbreak collided in Isabel's chest. At last the proof she needed. At last the vindication, but also the final nail in her son's coffin. Take it to Morales and Chun, Isabel said quietly. Let the world see. Harriet hesitated. Once we do this, there's no coming back. He'll go to prison for years. Maybe longer. Isabel's hand trembled as she set down her glass. Then let him go. Because if I protect him again, I'll lose everything. And this time, I'll lose myself too. The courthouse loomed like a fortress, its stone pillars casting long shadows across the crowded steps. Reporters clustered at the entrance, microphones raised like spears, cameras flashing with every movement. The trial of Tyler Reynolds had become a spectacle, an empire's heir accused of betrayal, fraud, and arson. And at the center of it all stood Isabel, her face calm, her posture unyielding, though her heart was a storm inside. The courtroom buzzed with tension. Prosecutors arranged their files with clinical precision. Tyler sat at the defense table, his once polished demeanor reduced to a brittle arrogance. His eyes flicked toward his mother, dark and defiant, as if daring her to meet his gaze. She did. For the first time since the betrayals began, she looked at him not as a son, not as the boy she had raised, but as the man he had chosen to become. Judge Halpern called the room to order. The trial commenced. Detectives Morales and Chun presented the warehouse footage first. The images were damning. Tyler slipping through shadows with a gas can, striking a match, the blaze igniting. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Tyler sat motionless, jaw clenched, refusing to acknowledge the screen. Then came the financial records. Offshore accounts. Forged signatures. Insurance policies crafted to profit from Isabel's death. Each document built the scaffolding of his betrayal. The jury watched, stone-faced. Finally, it was Isabel's turn. She rose from her seat, every eye on her, and walked to the stand. For a moment, the weight of decades pressed against her chest. Boardrooms conquered. Fortunes built. Sleepless nights spent fighting battles no one else dared to fight. But this battle was different. This battle was blood. The prosecutor's voice guided her gently. Mrs. Reynolds, can you describe the signatures on these documents? Her voice was steady. They are not mine. They were forged. By my son. A murmur swept through the gallery. Tyler's attorney objected, but the judge overruled. Mrs. Reynolds, the prosecutor continued, did you ever authorize your son to transfer funds or sign policies in your name? No, Isabel said firmly. He acted without my knowledge or consent. And why did you choose to cooperate with the investigation, knowing it meant testifying against your own child? For the first time, her composure cracked. Her eyes glistened as she spoke. Because truth matters. Because if I allow lies to stand, If I allow betrayal to go unanswered, then everything I've built becomes meaningless. I love my son, but love cannot erase what he has done. It cannot rewrite reality. Her words hung in the air, raw and unshakable. Tyler finally spoke, his voice dripping with venom. You're lying. You always lied. You never loved me, only your empire. I was nothing but a tool to you. And now you're throwing me away like trash. The judge silenced him, but his outburst echoed. Isabel's face remained calm, though inside her heart fractured again. The trial stretched on for days. Witnesses testified. Evidence mounted. The defense clawed desperately, painting Tyler as a victim of pressure. A man pushed too hard by an impossible legacy. But the proof was undeniable. On the seventh day, the jury returned. The foreman's voice was clear, unyielding. Guilty on all counts. Gasps. Silence. Tyler's face twisted, a mask of disbelief and rage. He turned toward his mother, eyes blazing with betrayal. You did this. You destroyed me. Isabel whispered so softly only Harriet beside her could hear. No, Tyler. You destroyed yourself. The gavel fell. Sentencing was set. Tyler would spend years behind bars. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, shouting questions. Mrs. Reynolds, how do you feel testifying against your own son? Do you regret it? What does this mean for the Reynolds empire? Isabel paused on the steps, cameras flashing like lightning. Her voice rang out, steady and resolute. I regret that my son chose this path, but I do not regret standing for the truth. Betrayal cuts deep, but silence would cut deeper. My empire will endure, because it was built on resilience, not deceit. And my family's story, my story will not end in lies. The crowd erupted, half in admiration, half in scandal. But Isabel walked forward, Harriet at her side, unflinching. Months later, the Reynolds empire slowly stabilized. Investors returned, donors cautiously re-engaged. Isabel worked tirelessly not to erase the scandal, but to reshape it into a story of survival. One quiet evening, Olivia returned from London, her newborn in her arms. The baby's cries filled Isabel's penthouse, fragile yet powerful. His name is James, Olivia whispered. Isabel held her grandson, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. For the first time in years, hope bloomed. The child was untainted, untouched by greed or betrayal. He was a chance at redemption, not for Tyler perhaps, but for the bloodline Isabel had nearly lost. She kissed the baby's forehead and whispered, You will know truth. You will know love. And I will protect you, no matter the cost. Harriet, watching from the doorway, smiled faintly. Maybe this is the beginning of something new. Isabel nodded. The scars of betrayal would never vanish, but from them she would forge something stronger. Thank you for staying with me through this story. Betrayal, love, and resilience. Sometimes the people closest to us can break us in ways no stranger ever could. But as Isabel's journey shows, even from the deepest wounds, we can rebuild. If this story moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe to Her Shattered Voices, where every tale uncovers the hidden truths behind family, love, and survival. And tell me in the comments, what would you have done in Isabel's place? Your voice matters here because together, we give strength to every shattered voice. Until next time, stay strong, stay true, and never forget your story isn't over yet.